Michael Forman, welcome to the Predictable B2B Success podcast. Michael, you run a consultancy, if I could put it that way, where you help professionals and business folk network, communicate for profitability. In fact, you're quite well known for your exceptional communication skills. If I'm not mistaken, you won an award for it in 2024, more recently, but you've really honed in on your expertise in the realm of networking. In fact, you're also the author of the book Networking Unleashed, and you actually coach and teach people some of these skills or skill sets through public workshops and seminars that you run. You are, of course, also a military veteran, having participated in Desert Storm. But I'm curious, given your journey to date, what was it about networking that stood out to you and got you thinking this is something that I can hone into? Because for most people, it's often talked about, but never really sought after as an area to grow in and develop their personal expertise in.
I'll tell you, first of all, thank you for having me. It's quite an honor to be here.
Pleasure.
Networking is really, I feel, the crux of all business. Now, about 100 years ago,
Mhm.
I was in the Air Force and I was of a rank that I had to tell other people what to do. But I was a young guy. I was in my
Yeah.
20s and I was telling people in their 30s who I outranked what to do. So I had to do that in such a way where they didn't get upset with me. And that was the beginning of my journey. That was the beginning of
Hmm.
networking without me even realizing that it was networking. And then when I got out, I put my own business. I had a graphic design studio, pizzeria, restaurants, a Ben and Jerry's. I had a lot of different choices. I had a lot of different, I was trained to speak to employees, speak to vendors, speak to customers, all in different ways, but trying to get the same
Hmm.
result. Then I wound up going into the mortgage industry and we built up the business and everything else, and it worked out very well. But then I was then teaching. I had two networking groups, one in New York, one in Jersey, about 30 businesses in each. And it was a weekly meeting, like a BNI, that type of thing. And I was teaching them how to network and communicate. Then I moved from New York down to Georgia and I became involved with a law firm for about 5 years. And again, I was teaching them how to network and communicate. Then I realized that I've been going on and off stages for about 10 years. And I decided to jump both feet into it. And about a year and a half ago, I decided this is what I'm going to do. So that's what I'm doing.
Certainly. And it's quite the underrated skill, if I may put it that way, because I was just doing a bit of research before our chat today, and I found that 57% of B2B sellers struggle with traditional marketing approaches, and over 90% of B2B decision makers acknowledge the need for alignment between sales and marketing functions. But most companies still treat networking as an informal relationship building exercise rather than a strategic revenue driver. There's obviously several issues, at least from a B2B perspective, that contribute to this issue, some of which I would think are misaligned metrics, in that only 15% of B2B companies have a complete view of the customers, making it difficult to measure activities like networking ROI, organizational silos, process integration, lead qualification, as well as cultural resistance, just being a few others that come to mind. I'd love to dive into it and explore your framework and ways of thinking about networking that could enable us to perhaps better our skill sets. But on a on a personal level, what would you say is your personal area of strength?
Well, networking as a whole, networking and communication, I feel are intertwined because you have to know both of them in order to succeed. And I feel very passionate about networking as a whole, the personal one on one or going into a networking event. I hold that a little closer to my heart than Zoom calls or texting or something else because there's a lot of different strategies, but if you do it correctly, if you do networking correctly, because you communicate when you're networking, and if you network correctly, you'll see an increase in your profits by the next, it's that quick, but you have to do it by the numbers. Now, I have a certain way of doing it. That's the way that I teach, but that's just one of the ways.
Right.
People love to buy things. They love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. So you have to keep that in mind whenever you're talking.
So in that area of strength, what would you say is something that businesses don't know but should?
It's very simple. You have to be able to not talk. You can't go into a networking event and expect to sell, but you have to expect to give in order to receive. So I use this as an example. When you're walking up to a table at a networking event, it's not a one-on-one, it's a table, it's 4 or 5 people. And the first thing you do is listen. You don't talk. You haven't said a word yet. And you listen for the conversation. Is this a conversation that I want to be a part of? If it is, great. If not, you politely bow out and you go to the next. But that's the strategic point, is listening. Now, remember, you are supposedly the expert in your field, the professional in your field. So once you respond to something that's said at the table, you have to keep that in mind, right? So you say it and you get some sort of response, let's say 2 of the 5 people, and you redirect what you're saying to them. And that starts the whole ball of wax.
Listening is a vital skill, an underrated skill as well. Would I be right in saying that those who tend to be better at networking also have an innate sense of curiosity about other people?
Sure, that's part of it. Look, there's introverts and extroverts, right? The introverts will go into later. What I'm speaking about are the extroverts, the people who are curious, the people who do want to know about other things and other people, what's going on. But they have to remember to give, not to receive. And if you do that enough, it will come back around to you and you'll be given as well. But if you go in with that state of mind, then you'll be much more successful.
Just shifting gears a little bit, networking is often seen and talked about as being a relationship building exercise. I take it you also have this added dimension of kind of systemizing the process so that it can be a bit of a predictable revenue engine. Could you speak to that?
Sure. There is, I call it a secret sauce to networking. There is a certain way. As you go up to the table, you listen and everything else, you get those 2 people to respond and you redirect your conversation to those people. But when you do that, you talk to them and I always keep one thing in mind: FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and a certain message. Now, I do that when I say, okay, Jim, tell me, are you married? Oh, that's great. Oh, your son play baseball? Well, that's even better. Tell me about, what does he play? Baseball? Oh, fine. What position? People love to speak about themselves. They can talk for hours. Let them, of course, but you let them talk and talk, because what is that doing? There's a mantra within networking. If they know you, if they like you, if they trust you, they'll do business with you. Now, know you is easy. Everybody knows you. You walk into an event and everybody knows you. Like you, you're narrowing down it a little bit, because not as many people are going to like you as they know you. So that's 2/3 of it right there. But trust you. So what you're doing by having them talk is you're having them lower that wall between the 2 of you, and you're building that trust. Now, you may only have 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes to build some sort of a trust factor. And as he's telling you, You say, you know something? I like you. I like what you do. I like how you do it. How can I make you more successful? How can I be a good referral source for
Mhm.
you? And that usually blows him away, but he'll tell you. Then if you've done your job correctly, he'll say, what do you do? And you go through and tell
Mhm.
them. Now, when you exchange business cards, as you should, on the back of his business card, you write down the date, the name of the function, and something you spoke about, because that'll help jog your memory when you do your follow
Mm.
up. And there's a whole nother thing of following up that if you do it the way that I teach, it's almost guaranteed you're going to increase your profits.
Right. Okay. Very much a relationship-oriented way of systemizing the process. So, as part of the overall thinking, should we also be thinking about a certain number of events that we need to get to in order to build a pool of connections every month or every week? What would you prescribe?
As we said in the beginning, networking is
Mm.
a skill. Okay. And a skill you have to practice, practice. Because I always tell everybody, put networking events on your
Mhm.
calendar every month, 2 a month, right? So let's say every other week, you're going to go to a networking event. The first time you go to a networking event, guess what? You're going to
Mhm.
suck. You're going to be horrible. And you're going to learn something from that event. You're going to bring it to your next event and you get a little bit better and then a little
Mhm.
bit better and a little bit better. So by the fifth time, sixth time, you're going to have this down pat. And so you will learn that the more you give, the better off you're going to be. The less you receive, contrary to sales thinking, but the better off you're going to
Mhm.
be. This is a time of relationship building. It's not building a customer base. Before the pandemic, that's all we did was build customers. Yeah, I got 200, 300, 1,000, 10,000, but it's not really customer based anymore. It's more relationship. So when you go to a networking event, I used to be in the mortgage business. I used to come home with a shoebox full of
Mhm.
business cards and say, look how I did. Wrong. Okay. That was all
Mhm.
wrong. Horribly. If you go to a 3 or 4 hour event, I say you should walk away with about 15 or 20 business cards. That's it. Because that tells me that you have built some sort of relationship with this person. And then you can properly follow up with them.
In terms of ROI, what metric have you found to be most effective in measuring the ROI of networking activities, apart from perhaps the connections or the number of connections that we have made in order to follow up correctly with them?
Well, in order for you to establish what your ROI is, you have to, let's say you take a
Mhm.
CRM. I use HubSpot. You put all of your information into a CRM. You put all your follow up information in there. You do your tasks in there, and you can measure your ROI by how besides your closed deals.
Mhm.
That's a definite measure. But how can you measure by your clients, by your relationships? You should be able to put into your CRM people who you have to follow up with, who you are brokering a relationship. Like, oh, okay, he needs a plumber. I know a plumber. I'm going to introduce this plumber to that person and then back off. So I didn't get anything out of
Mhm.
that, but I probably got a referral from the person who I was given the
Mhm.
referral. Because human instinct is if you've given me a referral, I'm going to make sure I give you one. And you do that enough times, then you've built a bit.
If I'm here, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost as a byproduct of being an effective networker is the idea of being something of a connector or super connector.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. I would much rather walk into a room filled with people where they know me, but by saying, oh, that's right. He gave me a referral for this, or he gave so and so a referral for this. I was given
Mhm.
business, but I'd rather be known, say, okay, you know what? I have to become friends with him because he can connect me to somebody
Mhm.
else. So all of it works hand in hand.
Certainly. As you pick particular events to go to, there's certainly organizations like BNI, etc., where you can often find a variety of folks from a variety of industries and kinds of businesses. If we say are working in the B2B tech space, there are certain types of companies that could be potential clients and certain others who could be potential partners, if you will. How would you recommend we look at events in order to ensure that they attract the right kinds of people that would make these events worthwhile?
The first thing you have to do is identify your customer, identify exactly who you're
Mhm.
looking for. You can't just say people that go to school. It can't be
Mhm.
that general. You have want to really be specific to your customer. Now, you may be have different legs of this. You may say, okay, plumbers really give me the best referrals or they use my services the most. So I'm going to look for plumber conferences, associations, different things like that. Because when I walk into that room, I know that it's filled with a room full of people that usually give me referrals, right? So that's how you're going to do it. You're going to really focus on your customer, and then you figure out what type of conferences, seminars, summits, associations, after hours meetings, things like that. I would really, I'd start with join your local chamber of commerce,
Mhm.
because they do the most in the community. Each week they have a meeting and you get to see 40, 50, 60 different people every week. But then you have your after hours meetings and you go to that. Not as many people go to that, but even still, because that's a way for you to enter into the networking world slowly and build up your.
So, as part of follow up, would you recommend that we not just do the one off follow up post event, but perhaps have a series of things that we could use on an ongoing basis in order to maintain, I guess, the relevance of some of our conversations and connections as well?
Okay, so I'm going to hand you and your listeners my secret sauce for
Yeah.
follow up. Okay. I have 15 or 20 business cards. On the back, I've written on them. When I go home to the office that day or that night, I immediately email every person. I email, hey, Joe, this is Mike. I saw you tonight. I want to thank you for your
Mhm.
time. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know, Michael. And to send it off. All it is, no
Mhm.
business. It's just an email thanking them for their time. Now, everybody in the world should do that. Okay. But the very next morning, this is the kicker, write a handwritten thank you card. That's right. A handwritten, it's not heard of
Mhm.
anymore, except for the people that I coach and train and things like that, because I tell them what to do. But write a handwritten thank you card. Hey, Joe, this is Mike. I saw you at such and such an event on such and such date. We talked about you're looking forward to doing business with you. Michael, put a business card in it, close it up, send
Mhm.
it. Now, I took the initial email about there's a 20% chance that you get a return. Now, with that thank you card, I just upped it to about 50%.
Mhm.
So let's say in 3 days, you have to give them time to receive it and everything else. You still haven't gotten a response. You write another email. Hey, Joe, this is Mike. I saw you on such and such affair, such and such date. We talked about, I said everything that I said beforehand because I'm creating a consistent way that I'm speaking to him so that he recognizes me and everything that we spoke
Mm.
about. Hey, Joe, that's right. Such this place, such time. Listen, I was hoping we can catch some coffee together. I'm open Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Does either one of those days work for you? Let me know, Michael.
Mhm.
Send it off. Let's say in 2 days, you still haven't gotten a response. You send them another email. Hey, Joe, this is Mike. I saw you on such and such affair, such and such date. We spoke about your son playing first base in Little League. I told you next week was okay, Tuesday and Wednesday, but it seems that Tuesday got a little busy for me. How's Wednesday around 3 o'clock? So here I'm just narrowing it down.
Mhm.
Business. I'm narrowing it down. And I send it off. If you haven't gotten a response after all of this, you probably won't get a response. But you do one more. About 2 or 3 days later, you send off another email. Hey, Joe, this is Mike again. I saw you on such and such affair, such and such date. We spoke about your son playing Little League. Listen, I told you Tuesday and Wednesday were busy. We're open. Tuesday seems to be a little busy. Wednesday seems to be closing up. Is there any time you would like to meet with
Mhm.
me? Michael. Now, if they haven't responded to you yet, usually that means they're not going
Mhm.
to. What do you do with their information? You put it to your CRM. You put all the information in, everything you spoke about, everything you've done so far with him, and you put them onto a drip campaign.
Right.
Let's say once a month. Hey, how you doing? And just keeping yourself in
Mm.
sight. So I say this not out of practicality, but I've had this happen to me. I emailed because I deal a lot with event planners. I go on different stages for conferences and go to different companies because I teach them about networking, things like that. I've been emailing this event planner for about 8 months,
Mhm.
7 months, and nothing, crickets. She hasn't responded one time to me in 7 months. This last month, she responded to me. Hey, Mike, how you doing? I have an event coming up. Would you be interested in it? Give me a call. I've been talking to her every day for the last 6 months, but that's how it
Mhm.
is. So you just keep yourself top of mind and you'll be happy.
That's very helpful. I appreciate that. So certainly this idea of keeping yourself top of mind, building out a bit of a content sequence, if you will, as well as a series of follow-up emails or handwritten notes, certainly would be worth the effort, given that people will respond over time. I understand the use of the CRM and email. Is there anything else technology-wise that you would recommend to help us with networking and its follow-up?
It depends on who you're
Mm.
going after. So again, I was in a mortgage business and a realtor is your number one referral
Okay.
partner. So I was in a county where there were 3,000 realtors. Only 1% of them did the work.
Mm.
So of course I went after the biggest one. And I knew her off and on because of what we did for a living. And I said, okay, so I bought a shot glass and I wrapped it up, put it, I said, Margot, just give me a shot
Mhm.
at doing a mortgage for you. And she got it. She loved it. She was hysterical laughing. She said, Michael, listen, I have my mortgage people, but when one of them falter, I'm going to let you
Mm.
in. I said, Margot, that's all I want. And you do that to a couple of people and you're going to get in. But you have to see what the situation is, how big they are, how busy they are. And if you want to get in, you have to figure out that way. That's just one or two of the ways that I used to sneak in to get that type of job. But otherwise, it really doesn't take a lot of
Mm.
technology. I emailed and I wrote that handwritten thank you note. If you don't want to handwrite that thank you note, there's a website. I think it's handywritten.com. and they'll write the note for you, and it'll look like you wrote it. So you can send it out. That's the easy way out. That's if you don't want to take the time to do it. But I'll tell you, every meeting I go to, every conference, every company I go to, in my briefcase, I have a stack of thank you because before I leave, I'm going to handwrite one out. I'm going to give it to them.
Brilliant. I would imagine that while teaching people about networking, especially those in sales, for example, would naturally make sense. Uh, Are you finding that it can be a bit of a challenge for senior executives to invest or decide to invest in relationship building and networking exercises and training in order to upskill their people or their teams?
In order for them to, for me, to come into their company and teach them, they have to first know the value of
Mhm.
networking. So my job as a networking professional is to go in there and train the top people and say, look, I'm going to come in, I'm going to train all of your lower people, but I need you to understand the value of networking and not just your
Mm.
salespeople, your customer service people, anybody who interacts with anybody, with vendors, with anybody else on the phone. Everybody should be in this class.
Do you find that people are open to the concept of the idea, or is there a bit of a mind shift and perhaps even a bit of a heart shift required to come around to your way of thinking?
Some of them feel that they know it. They just know
Hmm.
about it. They don't need me. That's fine. It's not fun where I'm concerned, but it's fine. You have to realize that I've been in companies that sold $50,000 a year and one that sold $22 million a year because the person at the top realized the person with the $22 million a year company said he wants to hit $100 million
Hmm.
and he just needs something or somebody to bring their salespeople up to that next level. So he understood the value of networking and the single man or the 2 employee, 3 employee person making 50,000 a year. They also need something to catapult them. So they all have to invest in their business in order to succeed. And it comes in all variations, but I'm doing the most work that I do is traveling in companies, Ohio, Texas, Florida, California, New York. I do a lot
Hmm.
virtually. I don't like doing it virtually, but I'll do it if I have, but they see the need, something to get them to the next level of sales. And it's not just their salespeople, their customer service people, their back office people. Everybody has to be on the same page.
That's interesting because I'm hearing, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, uh, that they're almost buying into this idea of a culture of networking within the organization that transcends departments and job functions so that salespeople could tap into the networks that, let's say, your customer support people are creating, etc. Would that be correct?
Yes, it would be correct. And you have to realize that, let's say you walk into a department store and everybody there has a mean look on their face. They don't want to help you. They don't want to do anything. They just want to work, punch in, punch out, do the job, and leave. And you feel that when you walk in, as opposed to when you walk into a store and they're super sweet. They're trying to do everything for you so that you don't have to do it. Let me do that for you. Oh, let me put it in your bag for you. Let me take these out to your car for you. Let me do this for you. That different
Mhm.
feeling is what an owner wants. He wants that feeling. He wants everybody to walk into their store or have do business with their company and have them come away with the same thought saying, my gosh, they were so
Mm.
nice. They wanted to help me every which way. You know what? I'm going to buy from them again. And that's what the owner wants to hear. So even if you're a warehouse worker and you feel you don't deal with the customers that much, but if a customer comes around and they ask you a question about anything, you handle that in such a way. You are super sweet. You handle it, everything that they want, you handle. Even though you're a warehouse worker, you're not handing this off to somebody else. Now, here's the trick. After you take care of their problem and you refer them to somebody upstairs, customer
Hmm.
service, whatever, your whole thing of a warehouse worker, the next day, go upstairs to the person that you referred them to and say, did you get to Mrs. Yes. How did you handle that? Okay. Is there anything that I have to do to follow up with them? Now, I don't get any money out of
Yeah.
it. All I get is company pride. And you do that enough, the owner is going to
Mhm.
recognize it.
So there's a lot more to the playbook than just the transactional aspect of it. It's a different mindset that people need to buy into. I'm curious, from your experience, what is that little bit extra that companies do in order to build that kind of culture?
Hire me. They have to have that company
Mm,
feeling that it can't just be one or two people or the owners. It's got to be that feeling throughout the company. You've got to, because you can't listen. If your employee doesn't handle the
mhm,
customers correctly, that's your fault. Okay. So, because I was, as an
mhm,
owner, I always took care of my employees so that they can take care of the customers. Because if my employee's not happy, they're not going to be
mhm.
happy or not 100% happy. Right. So, everything starts with the employee. So, once you make them happy, they'll make your customers happy and you'll increase your profits immediately.
Hmm. Do you run into issues, especially with perhaps salespeople or perhaps even CEOs or CPOs, chief pipeline officers, or CROs, where they go, this is how we traditionally calculate the lifetime value of a lead. And you need to come in and show them a different way of helping them calculate the lifetime value of a networking connection.
You hit something so important because you had the
Mhm,
mindset of the employee, of the customer service, of the salespeople, and it depends on how headstrong they
mhm,
are. Because if they're saying, I'm doing well, I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it your way. I'm doing very well on my own. And then you have the other salesperson who's doing the same monetary amount that he is per year saying, you can teach me to make more money than the way I'm making
mhm.
now. I'm open to listening. So it depends on their mindset and depends on the upper management to say either you're going to learn it or or just see what he's got.
Two other questions come to mind. One being using some of these events, networking events, as an opportunity to position a company or the brand that you're associated with as a leader in your space. How would you speak to that?
You always walk into those events as the professional and as the expert in your field. So it depends on how you speak about the company you're working
Mhm,
for. So it's really, you can explain what you're doing. You can say it's a widget, but it's the Foreman widget that really makes the difference because other widgets don't compare to it.
mhm,
So you have to put the name, associate the name with the product, and have the other person believe
mhm,
it. And once they do that, they will, it's like a Kleenex
mhm,
tissue. Let me have a Kleenex. It's not a Kleenex, it's some other brand, but it's the
mhm,
tissue, right? You associate Kleenex, or I have to go make a Xerox. It's not a Xerox, it's a
mhm,
copy. I sell Toshiba copiers, but you said a Xerox. So you have to get out of the mindset and into the mindset of calling your widget by your company's name.
Certainly. Is there also perhaps an opportunity to use some of these events as a opportunity to gather competitive intelligence?
I'm sorry.
Could some of these networking events also be an opportunity to gather competitive intelligence?
Oh, every event is that, okay? Because you're not going in as the only person selling what you have to
Mhm.
sell. You have to go in with the mindset that there are other people selling. Now, if you're a vendor and you're going into that
Mhm.
event, there's probably 4 or 5 or 6 different companies that sell the same
Mhm.
thing. So you have to do your research, do your homework, and maybe collect all that information and see, is it better than mine or is it not better than mine? Oh, you know what? We're better in this
Mhm.
environment, but they're better in that one. So I'm just going to talk about this environment and say how much better we are than the competition. So that's where you have to do a little research, a little homework. Listen, this is not
Mhm.
easy to be successful. It's not easy. Everybody isn't doing it. Everybody, some people work for other people. Some people are the owners, but it's not easy to be successful. So you have to work
Mhm.
at it.
I'm also thinking more perhaps along sales lines where someone who's open to this idea of networking would want to or would be considering putting in KPIs for some of their team's networking activities that would align with overall revenue goals. How would you speak to that individual in terms of putting in potential KPIs to ensure that they match up with everything else that they're doing?
I don't know if there's a direct correlation between networking and KPIs. Networking is one of the ways that you get to the
Mhm.
KPI, but it's not an end result of networking. Networking is a part of the
Mhm.
equation. Okay. So if you do the networking, the intros, the follow up, and everything else like that, then you're going to get a
Mhm.
sale and that will address your KPI issue. Right. So it's not a direct correlation, but it's definitely a part of it.
Okay. And just thinking back a little bit to when we were going through the pandemic, I'm curious, how did that change your approach to systematic networking? And what lessons could we, especially as founders, take away from that?
As of the pandemic, that's where virtual meetings rose
Mhm.
and speaking engagements fell. And you would think that it's going to really remain that way, but it hasn't. The speaking engagements caught up to the virtual and is taking off. So there are just as many speaking engagements for networking and networking events as there are Zoom calls and
Mhm.
everything else. But you have to find what you're comfortable with. Because again, if you're introverted, you're going to really stick with the Zoom
Mhm.
calls. If you're an introvert wanting to get out there, knowing that networking is the way to get ahead in business, whether it's Zoom or something else, but you feel you have to get out there, then you have to go through all of this. And I call it having a wingman. I'm part of the Air
Mhm.
Force. So I always equate everything to Air Force. So if you have a wingman, I would say go to events by yourself. Okay.
Okay.
You don't want any
Mm.
distractions, nothing. But in this instance, I would say go with somebody. Go with somebody that knows you, knows your product, knows how you do it and what you do. So going back to the beginning, when you walk up to that table and the conversation is coming around, they would say, "Oh, wait a second, you know something? That's right, because Michael knows a lot about that because he has X, Y,
Mhm.
Z. Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?" So after that introduction, well, I feel like I can talk
Mhm.
now because I was introduced. I'm not breaking the ice.
Sure.
And so you hire that wingman first time, second time, third time, fourth time, maybe around the fourth or fifth time, you won't need them. But until then, you
Mhm.
do.
Very insightful, Michael. I'm curious in this space of networking and improving the ways we communicate. Do you often find that there are perhaps a couple of areas that don't get talked about very much? If so, what would they be?
It's how you handle yourself, right? When you're speaking with
Mhm.
somebody, give them your full attention, look at them square in the eyes, shake their hands firmly, not like a jellyfish, but like a firm
Mhm.
handshake. Keep your body straight to them, not, well, okay, how you doing? Those are all little things that you have to do to have that person say, you know something? He's paying attention to me. He's thinking about what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Everything. And you just have to, it's boosting that confidence level. If you are confident when you're meeting somebody, then it's going to show.
Mhm.
Okay. By eye contact, by shaking their hand, by being present, everything like that. None of that is talked about. Everybody talks about networking and getting together with people. They talk about how to do it, but they never talk about that one on
Mhm.
one.
I love that point there. Michael, if you were listening to this episode, what would you say would be your top takeaway?
My top takeaway is my follow up, the follow up with my handwritten note
Mhm.
card, because nobody
Mhm.
does it. And that will make the most impact on the person that you're sending it to.
And if listeners are curious, want to find out more or connect with you, where would you recommend they head to?
I'm an open book. I'm very easy to
Mhm.
get hold of. If you go to michaelaforman.com, that's my website. There you will see the plethora of podcasts that I was on. You will see the Speakers Bureau that I'm a part of. I have a digital course about networking that you can buy, download, whatever. My book is on there. Everything is on there. But most importantly, a contact form. Way at the bottom, fill out the contact form, and I will get back in touch with you in 24 hours, and we'll
Mhm.
talk.
We'll include links to that in the show notes. Is there a platform that a social media platform that you tend to favor? Would that be LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is,
Okay.
is really for business. Now, I do everything on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I have my own YouTube channel, but LinkedIn is for business, and that's where I do most of my
Okay,
business.
we'll include a link to that in the show notes as well. Michael, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure having you on.
My pleasure. Glad to be here. Thank you for having
No
me.